angel coming for to sing his song. I can hear the drummer drumming. He's coming and it won't be long. Hear the cry across the nations. People wanna be free, yeah. Free to leave the great plantations. Free to be who they want to be. I see it squeaks out freedom and it won't be long.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. It is Tuesday night, the 28th of September, and it's a little bit after 9 o'clock, and I wanted to come on here for a few moments and talk about a couple of events of the day. And I'm going to start off by saying, well, hello there, Valerie from St. Mary's, Ohio. I've been to St. Mary's, Ohio. I like St. Mary's, Ohio. And, I've said for a long, long time that if things were on my timetable, if God was on my timetable, it would be a lot quicker. It would be a lot quicker. I have also always consistently, I believe, said that I believe that all of this is turning around. All of this is turning around. I said last night that it is time. It is time. It is time. But as things have progressed, the one thing that has become very, very obvious to anybody that's paying any attention is that more and more and more and more is being revealed. And today we had a really good example of that. And yes, I'm going to talk about this appearance with Fat Mark Milley and these other two fellas there. We're going to get to that. But first, I want to just jump in and say, please like, please share, please subscribe. And every time I come on here, I'm not sure if we're going to, especially the Facebook crowd, I'm not sure if they're going to be there because I'm not sure if live is going to work or not because Mr. Zuckerberg is just so insecure. And so I want to begin, before we get started, I'm going to make an announcement. There's an event that I want to plug. I want to get to that in just a minute. But I get all the time people say, especially on Facebook, they say, I don't get notifications. I don't get, I don't get a notification, for the program when you're going live or whatever. And so I'm just going to ask a question. We have looked into doing text alerts, where you hook up with the service and then it just sends a text that says, hey, we're going to go live at such and such, and it's got the links and everything. If that is something that you would be interested in being a part of, in other words, would you like to get text alerts? If we set that up, could you please type yes in the comments? If you would not, you can type no or just type nothing. But that's something that we're looking at. So, if there's anyway, just let us know. Now, I want to plug this event, and I hope to be able to talk more to these individuals, these folks. But if you can see on your screen, I'm going to blow it just a little bit bigger. Friday, October 1st, that's this Friday at 7 a.m. Everybody in the Columbus area that it is possible for you to do this. At the Canal Winchester School District elementary schools, there's going to be a peaceful protest to make masks optional. Now, you would have to get online and find out where these elementary schools are. But I talked to one of the organizers today. I hope we can get them to come on maybe on Thursday evening if one of them are available in their busy schedule. But let me just tell you the little bit that I know about what's going on. And we want to get some more information, and especially if there's any documentation that we can get that would even add to what we already know. But in that particular school district, Canal Winchester, which is a really, really nice area, as I understand, they have like some of the lowest COVID numbers of any district in the region. So they're very, very, very healthy by anybody's standards. But back in July, the superintendent of schools there in the Canal Winchester district said categorically that there would be no mask mandates for students this year. He said it wouldn't happen, that masks would be optional. And then just last Monday on the 20th at a school board meeting, and the individual that I spoke to said it was just like a script had been rolled out, like it was a theatrical, almost like it had been, rehearsed, but just that quick. They introduced a mask mandate on the students. And the gentleman that I spoke to had quite a exchange with the school superintendent and called him a liar to his face. And I applaud that, because if someone is in public service or, public position and they lie, what's wrong with calling them a liar? If you're a liar, you're a liar. But anyway, let me pull this up one more time. If you are able to, pardon me, or know someone that would want to know, please spread the word. Canal Winchester School District, this Friday, October 1st at 7 a.m. Come and show your support. Fair enough. And I see that I get a few yeses. I guess we're going to look into that, because folks, we actually have got some plans that we want to announce. I'm going to keep it under my hat for right now, but we do want to be able to get the word out when we get it. So let me just get rolling. And I'm going to do what one of my critics months ago said I should do, just play the clip and then talk. So let me play this clip. Now, this clip is 90 seconds. And if I interrupt and talk, then sometimes it doesn't want to restart. So I'm going to do my best to just let this play. And you're going to enjoy this. So let me just... Whoops, did I do that again?
General Milley, I can only conclude that your advice about staying in Afghanistan was rejected. I'm shocked to learn that your advice wasn't sought until August 25th on staying past the August 31 deadline. I understand that you're the principal military advisor, that you advise, you don't decide, the president decides. But if all this is true, General Milley, why haven't you resigned?
Senator, as a senior military officer, resigning is a really serious thing. It's a political act if I'm resigning in protest. My job is to provide advice. My statutory responsibility is to provide legal advice or best military advice to the president, and that's my legal requirement. That's what the law is. The president doesn't have to agree with that advice. He doesn't have to make those decisions just because we're generals. And it would be an incredible act of political defiance for a commissioned officer to just resign because my advice is not taken. This country doesn't want generals figuring out what orders we are going to accept and do or not. That's not our job. The principle of civilian control of the military is absolute. It's critical to this republic. In addition to that, just from a personal standpoint, my dad didn't get a choice to resign at Iwo Jima. And those kids that are at Abbey Gate, they don't get a choice to resign. And I'm not going to turn my back on them. I'm not going to resign. They can't resign, so I'm not going to resign. There's no.
Okay, I'm going to jump in right there, kind of go just in reverse order. I don't know anything about Mr. Milley's father's involvement in Iwo Jima. I would assume that his father was a hero, and I know that the brave soldiers in that conflict were heroes. They were brave. Bravery, Mr. Milley, is something you know nothing about because you are a coward. And folks, I'm going to you may want to tune out right now. And I perfectly understand if you do, so I want to give you a fair warning. I'm going to go shallow for a moment. I am going to go shallow, but I'm also going to have some substance as well. I have a hard time, and this is shallow, so shallow me, but I have a hard time lending credibility to a guy that tries to pass himself off with a bunch of medals on a military uniform. Excuse me. Now listen, folks, I'm on a diet right now. I really am. I got about 10 pounds I want to lose. And if you had a wife that cooked like mine, you'd realize that is a tall order. So anybody that's a little heavier than they want to be, I'm right there with you. Mark Milley is a fat pig. Okay, there I said it. I have a hard time with a guy that's trying to represent military that is so out of shape as that guy. There I said it. Milley, you are a coward and you're fat and you lie when the truth is better. And I'm going to show an example of that. And so I probably lost some audience members with saying that, but I was thinking about that very thing today. And I was saying recently, I saw the very last, I told you it was shallow. I saw the very last speech that President Eisenhower gave about the industrial military complex. And President Eisenhower was top general during World War II and then served all that time as president, but yet he was older. But when he gave that address, he was fit and trim. I think Mark Milley's obesity is it's almost a metaphor for what's wrong with that whole crowd. Okay, so I lost a lot of people over that. Sorry, I understand that you left. Let me play this other clip. And then I've got something that I'm pretty sure you haven't heard. I'm going to give some more information about Mr. Milley. Here we go.
That we are, based on what's been a fairly extraordinary hearing. Here's what I've learned so far. Number one, President of the United States lied to the American people about the advice that you gave to him about the military judgment that you provided for him. I think you've all testified to that effect now repeatedly. Secondly, the State Department and maybe the White House appeared to have pushed back the evacuation to such a time that it became a catastrophe, apparently against your advice, although I'd like to learn more about that. And third, for some reason that we still don't quite understand, the Pentagon failed to plan for the potential collapse of the security forces or the collapse of the Afghan government, despite there being quite a lot of warning. Senator Kaine referred to this earlier, quite a lot of warning for really, frankly, years that the Afghan security forces were ill-equipped, ill-trained, and frankly not up to the job. I don't understand any of that. I'd like to explore those things with you in this round and the next. But first, before I do, Secretary Austin, I have to take issue with something you just said. I know this is an administration talking point. I've heard it out of the mouth of the press secretary and others. We are not leaving Americans behind. That was your quote of just a minute ago. With all due respect, sir, you have left, past tense, Americans behind. We have no presence any longer in Afghanistan. There are hundreds of Americans, and not just Americans generally, civilians you left behind against the president's explicit commitment not to leave until all American citizens were out and to safety. That is not what happened. And now we have people who are desperately, frantically trying to get out of this country, coming to me, coming to members of this committee, asking for help. They can't get that help. They're stuck behind enemy lines. So please don't tell me that we're not leaving Americans behind. You left them behind. Joe Biden left them behind. And frankly, it was a disgrace. Let me ask you this, though.
Senator, thanks for your help in continuing to help get American citizens and Afghans who have helped us out of the country. But as you've seen, we've continued to facilitate.
Well, actually, I didn't ask you a question, but since you seem to want to address the issue, so since you do,
Okay, I'm going to interrupt that. And he was that was Josh Hawley, and he was talking to Secretary Austin. But they're talking about how we left people behind. And I'm going to try to lead back into Milley here for a moment because I saw a comment that reminded me. I knew that there was something weird. You could just feel the communism oozing out of Milley's pores, going clear back to last summer. I'd never heard of Milley before that. But how many remember this incident where, how many remember this incident where there was chaos? There was chaos in Washington, D.C., and the president went out to address people in front of the church just to assure people that everything was okay. And then the next day, Milley comes out saying he regrets participating in Trump photo op. And yet later, all of that was debunked. My point in bringing this back to our remembrances, Milley, you just heard a clip of him trying to talk about, civilian control of the military, and people don't. But the point is, he is the picking and choosing. He's perfectly okay with defying a president that he doesn't like, a president that doesn't agree with. He's perfectly fine with picking up the phone and talking to Chinese generals behind a president's back. But yet, when he's testifying today, he's trying to paint this picture that he would never get crosswise of a president. And so, speaking of presidents, I just want to say, dear Mr. President, when you resume your presidential duties shortly, please have this gentleman court-martialed immediately. And I believe that's going to be much sooner than later. Please have this. And I know I've been disrespectful. Yes, I have. Please have this fat, sorry excuse for a military person. He is an affront to the, he's an insult to everybody that's ever worn the uniform. I never wore the uniform. My brothers, I had two brothers that did, and I respect their service. I do not respect this man. And again, we all know this. The only person that's been held accountable for this Afghanistan mess is this Lieutenant Colonel Scheller that spoke out. And when he spoke out, he knew that he would probably lose his command. 17-year veteran, 3 years from retirement. He knew that he would probably lose his retirement and would lose everything. And guess what he has? And Monday, I believe it was Monday of last week, he was arrested for speaking out, or maybe it was just the other day. But the point is why was he arrested? And he's in there without any charges being laid against him. He's just arrested. No charges have been at least divulged to him. Why? Because they don't want him speaking out while these clowns, these American military coward clowns, Mark Milley, are testifying. Now, I'm going to go back to the year of 2017. And I'm going to say this Mark Milley is a Chinese communist sympathizer. How in the world did this guy ever get in the position that he did? This is from a 4-minute clip that Natalie Winter of National Pulse dug up. I'm just going to play a much shorter part of that, but I want you to listen close to what he was saying about China back in 2017.
I wouldn't call them all enemies per se. China, for example, I would hesitate to call China an enemy. Some would say adversary, others would say enemy, some would say hostile. I think they are what the slide implies. They're a competitor, and the competition between the United States and China has a military dimension to it. But that is a far cry, and that's a long leap between that and enemy. I've heard talk, and I've read many studies and books talking about the inevitability of war between the United States and China. I take exception to that. History is not deterministic, it's not inevitable, and it by no means is predictive. So you can't take from history and predict the future.
All right, so take note of what he said. History is not predictive. It's not inevitable. It's not predictive. He just said that. He also just said that he doesn't see China as an enemy. What part of forcing every student that comes to America, forcing them to spy on America, don't you regard as an enemy, Fat Mark Milley? What part of intellectual property theft don't you regard as the works of an enemy, Fat Mark Milley? What part of everything that they do? I mean, it's just overwhelming. How can this guy be so dense? But he just said that history is not predictive, and yet this he said within 60 seconds in the same speech.
On any time the United States and China would become, quote unquote, an enemy where armed conflict were to be pursued. There's a lot of commonality, areas of common interest that need to be worked out in that respect. But that is a construct, though, that we use, that I use within the United States Army. A couple of other comments about current situation. First is I think that in terms of, and I'm not an economist by a long shot, but
Here we go.
Most of the studies I've read clearly indicate that we are in the midst of the largest economic shift in power in probably something like 5 centuries, with the shift from a North Atlantic-based global economy to a North Pacific-based global economy, which we began really with the reforms in China, starting around 1979 with Deng Xiaoping, and that has given rise over run of somewhere between 9 and 10% growth, and it's slowed down to 7%, which is still considerable. For a country as large as China. That has continued steadily for well over 30 years. And historically, it takes about a century or so for that shift to be complete. So at least in my...
I'm going to stop it right there. Did you hear what he just said? He just said, and historically, It takes about 100 years for that shift to be complete. And he just said that we were about 3 decades into it. But the previous clip, which was only about a minute earlier, he said that history is not predictive. I have never heard a fat man talks out of both sides of his mouth the way this guy does. Folks, if you listen to that 4-minute clip, you really very quickly understand that Mark Milley, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is a complete Chinese Communist Party sympathizer and apologist. In his mind and in his rhetoric, the decline of America and the ascendancy of China is inevitable. Although history is not predictive, it is predictive in this instance because he's a sympathizer to it. Fat Mark, don't you understand that China has risen because we have been weak? Don't you understand that we have made bad deal after bad deal after bad deal? And that is what has strengthened the Chinese Communist Party. And the only person that ever stood up to them, Fat Mark, was the president that you despised, the president that hopefully very, very soon is going to have you court-martialed. I better leave it right there. I want to talk about Pastor Art Pawlowski. Got a little bit more to add, and then we're going to bring this to a close, folks. I know that I'm ranting, and sometimes I don't want to rant just because I want to rant. But there's some new information, but in case this is the first you've seen it, I want to play what I believe is the only clip that's available, and that's part of the story as well. But this happened to Pastor Artur Pawlowski as he was returning to Canada yesterday. It's about 90 seconds. I'm going to play it.
Put your feet apart. That's out. Okay, place your hands behind your back, away from your back. No, behind your back, away. No, stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
Oh, they did cooperate with you.
All right.
Woohoo.
What happened? Stand up, please. All right. Move forward.
Here we go.
Hi.
What should I do with his luggage?
Okay. To the best of my knowledge, that is the only video that is available of Pastor Artur Pawlowski's arrest yesterday. And why is that? Well, learned a little bit today, and I'm going to play some video, so I'm going to break my rule. I'm going to talk about it first and then play the clip. But this is what we learned today. Pastor Artur had been speaking in America for about 3.5 months. He had been charged and went through court back in the summer, and is due to be sentenced in October. So he was returning yesterday. Now get this, folks. The reason there's only one source of video for that is because he was returning by private aircraft flying, pardon me, sorry about that, from Bozeman, Montana to Calgary. And he had waiting for him a group of 50, 60, 70 people, including his family. And en route, they were already off the ground. Midway through the flight, that plane was ordered to another airport, not their original destination. Why? So that the Calgary thugs, the Canadian police cowards, could arrest him out of sight of any scrutiny, out of sight of any we the people seeing what was going on. And it's completely and totally unconscionable. And at least as it stood by this source, just a matter of a few hours ago, there still hadn't been any formal charges laid against him, except that in name they said that he was being charged. Are you ready for this? This is what they got him for: baptizing his daughter in May. For the heinous crime of a Christian pastor baptizing his own daughter in May is the pretense that they're holding him in an undisclosed location. And so I broke my own rule, but I'm going to play this clip from Steve Bannon's program, and she's going to reiterate everything that I just
Steve,
said.
for having me on. So sorry about the video. I'm here at the airport. I just landed here in Atlanta. So this morning, I sent Pastor Arthur back. We finished the tour here in America, and he was on a private jet back from Bozeman to Calgary. And as soon as he stepped foot back on Canadian soil, the Canadian authorities, Calgary authorities, were there and arrested him immediately. He didn't even step 2 feet onto the tarmac before they had his hands behind his back, and he was on his knees again. So they've arrested him. They've taken him to an undisclosed location. When they flew in, the Calgary officials forced his plane to reroute. There were about 50 to 75 people waiting at the airport there for him. His family, his wife, and his children were there waiting for him, and they rerouted the plane to a different location other than where he was supposed to be flying in originally, so that they could take him away without them being able to see anything. They didn't want any spectacle. They didn't want any witnesses to this kidnapping of this pastor, who they are. We don't even know what the charges are at this point. They're claiming that he's being charged with, get this, baptizing his daughter in May. So that is what they're claiming the charges are. But we all know that there's far more to it than that. So as of this morning, he was arrested again. We don't know where he is. His family went to the remand center, which is where, I guess it's like a police station. I'm not in Canada, so I'm not sure. And his family was then, they asked about Arthur. And as soon as they started asking about Arthur Pawlowski, they locked his family out of this government building because they were simply asking about their husband and father. So we are asking everybody to contact the Calgary mayor. And if you want to take this phone number down, it's 403-268-2489, and demand that they let this pastor go. The idea that he can be held in jail for nothing more than baptizing his daughter or holding church is absolute tyranny. We cannot stand for this any longer. We shouldn't have been standing for it as long as we have. But
there you go, folks. And I'm posting that phone number right now. And it was too late by the time. I assure you, I will be calling that number tomorrow. I absolutely will be calling that number tomorrow. And so there's some more information. And there are some individuals that have tried to send me some video from that area there. And I got to get it off of Telegram. There's been some different issues. But folks, I'm going to sign off here in just a minute. But I just want to say this. We spent a lot of time talking about Fat Mark Milley. I guess that's going to be, I'm going to have to live with it now. Okay. And I urge you, Mr. President, when you're finished with your little bit of time off that you've had, when you get back into duty here very, very shortly, please court-martial this Chinese Communist Party sympathizer. Please clean house. Please get rid of the whole bunch of them, and we will stand behind you 1,000%. People will squeal, people will howl, people will make a lot of fuss and a lot of noise. They're going to do it anyway. Get it done. Get this Chinese Communist Party sympathizer out. And one thing that it will do, Mr. President, is it will help put the fear of God even across the border to our neighbors, because people like this Calgary mayor and these Canadian police thugs, they're all looking to America and the freedoms of this world. We play a role, Mr. President. And so it's time to get busy. It's time to get active, time to get having. So a godly friend, godly patriot, hope you were informed tonight, and I will go over comments when we get off. I will try to be more civil and more polite the next time we get together, and I will try not to use derogatory names like Fat Mark Milley. I understand some people would be offended for me saying Fat Mark Milley when I'm talking about Fat Mark Milley, so I'll try to get off of the Fat Mark Milley thing and just not talk about Fat Mark Milley. And so, folks, until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, and God bless the United States.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.